What would you do if the person you buried, the person you grieved, the person you built a whole new life around losing, looked you in the eyes from across a crowded street and then walked away? This is part 2. Hey, if you are just joining us, you can find the part 1 on our page. The estate felt different without him in it. Not empty. A house that big can never really feel empty. But different. Like a sentence with the most important word removed. Everything else still there, still grammatically correct, but the meaning gone. Deja stayed 3 weeks after the funeral. Not because anyone asked her to. Not because she had nowhere else to go. But because the garden still needed watering, and somebody had to do it. That's what she told herself, anyway. The truth was simpler and harder. She wasn't ready to leave the last place that still smelled like him. His office still had that faint cedar and black tea scent. His kitchen still had the doenjang paste she'd stocked. His chair in the garden still sat at the angle he'd left it, turned slightly toward the marigolds like he'd been mid-conversation with them when he decided to go inside for the last time. She watered the garden every morning. Talked to the marigolds the way her grandmother used to talk to plants back in Memphis, narrating the weather, the news, small, ordinary things that didn't matter but filled the silence. "Y'all are being dramatic," she told the sunflowers one morning when they started drooping in the October cold. "He wouldn't want you giving up this early." They didn't listen. Sunflowers aren't great listeners. But she kept talking anyway. "Okay, listen, if you watched part 1, you know what happened. You know what these two built. You know how it ended. If you haven't watched it, go back. I'm not explaining it. I'm just moving forward. Subscribe right now so you don't miss what's coming because I promise you, you are not ready. Drop your time and your city in the comments. I see all of you. All right, keep going." Tanya came on a Saturday to help her pack. Not everything, just her personal things. Clothes, books, the yellow sweater she'd been wearing the morning he knocked on her door and looked at her like he was seeing someone new. The small collection of objects that had quietly become hers over 14 months of living in someone else's house. Tanya was uncharacteristically quiet for the first hour. Folding sweaters, stacking books, not asking questions. Then she stopped, sat on the edge of the bed and said, "You're different than the woman who showed up at my apartment 2 years ago with mascara running down her face." "I know," Deja said. "I'm not being cute. Whatever happened in this house, whoever he was to you, it mattered. Don't shrink it." Deja held the yellow sweater against her chest. "I'm not shrinking anything." "Good," Tanya said. "Then take your time with the rest." She moved into a small apartment in Logan Square the following week. 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors that creaked honestly without pretense. A kitchen window that caught morning light if she stood at the right angle. She found work within 2 weeks. Housekeeping manager at a boutique hotel in the Loop. Good pay, reasonable hours, a boss who respected her without needing to understand where she'd learned what she knew. She planted herbs in window boxes. Rosemary, thyme, a small basil plant that had no business surviving November in Chicago but did anyway out of what Deja could only describe as stubbornness. "You remind me of someone," she told the basil. She wore the caramel jacket every day. Space Needle pin on the lapel. People looked at it sometimes, this $5 tourist pin on an obviously expensive jacket, and she never explained it. Mireille called every Sunday. 10 a.m., the time slot that used to be J1's. Neither of them mentioned that. They just talked. About weather, about nothing. About the small, ordinary things that keep two people connected when the biggest thing they shared is gone. "How are you?" Mireille asked. Every week. The real version, not the polite one. "I'm here," Deja always said. "That's enough," Mireille always answered. The call from Sung-jin came in January. She hadn't heard from him since the funeral. Sung-jin was not a man who reached out unnecessarily, so when his name appeared on her phone, she answered on the first ring. "There's something at the estate," he said. No greeting. She almost smiled. Classic Sung-jin. He left instructions with the lawyer. A physical item in the storage room. 2nd floor. She knew the room. She'd reorganized it twice. Found his mother's letters there. The photograph of Mireille. "What is it?" she asked. "I think you should come see it yourself." Going back to the estate felt like returning to a language she used to speak fluently. The iron gates, the oak trees, the entryway, where everything between them had started with a midnight text, and a glass of water turned slowly in careful fingers. Sung-jin met her at the door. Same as always. Steady, composed, a shadow with purpose. On the shelf where Mireille's letters had been, there was a flat package wrapped in brown paper. Her name on it. His handwriting. She opened it with careful hands. Architectural drawings. Professional ones. Not sketches, not the impossible building doodle from the envelope. Real plans. Detailed floor plans. Elevation views. Material notes in the margins. A small building. 2 stories. Clean lines. Big windows. Something between a home and a studio. Something designed for someone who wanted morning light and garden views and space to just be. Click to the front page and note. I had these drawn up in August. The lot is in Logan Square. Yes, I know that's where you'd end up. The architect is someone I trust. She knows the project. Call her when you're ready. No rush. No pressure. Just, I wanted you to have a place that was yours. Not mine. Not ours. Yours. Build something impossible. Jay. She stood there for a long time. Sungjin waited in the hallway. Didn't come in. Didn't ask if she was okay. Just present. The way he always was. When she came out, her eyes were red but her back was straight. She didn't call the architect immediately. She sat with it. The way she sat with everything. Slowly, without rushing, letting the weight settle. Mireille told her to build it. Tanya told her to build it. Her mama from Memphis said, "Baby, if that man designed you a house from the other side of wherever he is, you better build that house or I'm coming up there myself." She called the architect in March. Suyeon Park. Mid-40s. Calm, patient with process. They met at a coffee shop in Wicker Park and spread the drawings across the table between their lattes. He was very specific, Suyeon said. Morning light in the kitchen. A window seat wide enough to sleep in. Garden access from every room on the first floor. She looked at Deja. He said you want to change things. That I should listen to whatever you said. Deja traced the floor plan with her finger. The kitchen was big. Room for 2 people to cook side by side. Or 1 person to cook alone without the aloneness hurting. I want to add a porch, Deja said. Out back. Nothing fancy. Just somewhere to sit in the morning. Suyeon made a note. Anything else? The garden. I want it visible from every room. Not just accessible, visible. Suyeon smiled. He said you'd say that too. The house took 10 months. Deja visited every weekend, watching the frame go up, the walls come in, the windows appear like eyes opening. She brought coffee for the crew. Learned their names. Started reading his architecture magazines. Every single one she could find. Sitting on her apartment floor with a highlighter, marking things she wanted to ask Suyeon about. She understood now why he'd love this. The idea that you could imagine something impossible and then make it real. She moved in on a Saturday in February. 14 months after. Tanya helped. Her mama flew up from Memphis, cried when she saw the kitchen. This is yours, Dorothy said, standing in the morning light. This is mine, Deja said. She put the sketch on the mantel. The impossible building, the 2 words underneath. She put the Space Needle pin in a glass dish by the front door, where she could touch it coming and going. Spring came. Marigolds went in. Sunflowers. The purple blooms she still couldn't name. Mireille visited in May. Stood in the garden looking at the flowers for a long time. He would have loved this, she said. I know, Deja said. No, he would have loved that you built it. Not that he designed it. That you made it real. Deja looked at the sunflowers. Extremely pleased with themselves as always. Yeah, she said. I think so too. She started mentoring young women from hard situations who needed work, stability, someone who told them the truth without softening it. She was good at it the way she was good at everything. Thoroughly, without fanfare, with the kind of attention that made people feel seen. She was at peace, not over him. She'd never be over him, but through the worst of it. Living inside the life he'd helped her see was possible, building it with her own hands, wearing the jacket, keeping the garden, holding the Sunday calls. She was okay. She was genuinely, honestly okay. If you're still here, if you came back for part 2, hit subscribe. Right now. Because what's about to happen next? You're not ready. I'm telling you. You're not ready. Okay. Keep going. It was a Tuesday in June, 17 months after the funeral. She was at the coffee shop in Wicker Park, the same one where she'd met Suyeon, the same table by the window. waiting in line for her usual order, scrolling her phone, thinking about nothing in particular. She glanced up, looked out the window the way you do when your eyes need somewhere to rest. And she saw him, across the street, navy jacket, hands in his pockets. That specific way he stood, weight slightly on his left side, shoulders set but not rigid, head tilted like he was listening to something nobody else could hear. She stopped breathing. Her phone slipped in her hand. She caught it, looked again. He was still there. It wasn't possible. She had sat beside his hospital bed. She had held Mireille's hand at the funeral. She had watched them lower the casket into the ground on a Sunday in October while the oak trees moved in the wind and Chicago carried on around them like the world hadn't just ended. He was dead. But the man across the street turned his head, slowly, like he knew exactly where to look, and she saw his profile. The jaw, the line of his neck, the way his eyes moved. She knew that face the way she knew her own hands. He looked directly at her through the glass. 1 second, 2 seconds. His expression wasn't surprised, wasn't panicked. It was the expression of a man who had planned this moment, who had stood in that exact spot knowing she'd be in this exact coffee shop, who had chosen to let her see him. Then he turned and walked away. Not fast, not running. Just walked. Into the crowd on Milwaukee Avenue, past the bookshop on the corner, gone. Deja shoved through the coffee shop door. The barista called after her, "Ma'am? Ma'am, your order." And she didn't hear it. She was already on the sidewalk, looking left, looking right, scanning every face, every jacket, every silhouette. Gone. Completely gone. Like he dissolved into the city itself. She stood on the sidewalk with her hands shaking and the June heat pressing against her skin, and her heart doing something violent and irregular in her chest. That was him. That was him. She went home in a daze, sat in the kitchen, his kitchen, the one he designed with the morning light and the garden views, and tried to be rational. Tried to talk herself through it the way she talked someone else through it. You're grieving. You saw someone who looked like him. The mind does that. It fills in what it wants to see. Except Deja Washington was not a woman who saw things that weren't there. She was precise. She was observant. She had spent 14 months learning every angle of that man's face across kitchen tables and back porches and museum hallways. She knew his posture the way she knew her grandmother's biscuit recipe, by heart, by repetition, by love. That was him. She picked up her phone, called Mireille, didn't tell her what she'd seen, just needed to hear her voice, needed to know if something in it sounded different. A crack, a hesitation, a secret sitting underneath the words. Mireille sounded normal, warm, steady. "Are you okay, sweetheart? You sound off." "I'm fine," Deja said. "Just a long day." They talked for 10 minutes. Nothing unusual. Nothing hidden. Or nothing Deja could detect. She hung up, sat in the silence of the house. Night came slowly the way June nights do. Light holding on, then letting go all at once. She turned on one lamp. Sat on the window seat he designed wide enough to sleep in. Looked at the sketch on the mantel and the impossible building and the 2 words underneath. "Thank you." From a dead man. A dead man she'd seen 3 hours ago standing across the street in a navy jacket, looking at her. At 11:43 p.m., she heard something at the front door. Not a knock, not a ring, just a sound. Small, like paper against wood. She sat very still for 10 seconds. Then she got up, walked to the door, and opened it. Nobody there. The street was dark and quiet. Logan Square at midnight, parked cars, streetlights, a dog barking somewhere far away. But on the doormat, a folded piece of paper. She picked it up. Her fingers were steady. She unfolded it. His handwriting. She knew his handwriting like she knew the sound of her own breathing. 2 words. "I'm sorry." She stared at it. Read it again. Again. "I'm sorry." Sorry for what? For dying. For not dying. For letting her grieve a man who was apparently still breathing. For standing across the street and watching her through glass like she was something he'd lost the right to touch. She looked up, out at the dark street, and there it was. A car parked at the corner. Black. Headlights off. Engine running. She could see the faint exhaust in the cool night air. She couldn't see inside. The windows were dark. But she could feel it. The way she used to feel him watching her before she'd turn around and catch him. That specific weight of someone's attention when they're looking at you like you're the only real thing in the room. She should be angry. She should be angry. This man let her grieve. Let her sit in a hospital. Let her hold his mother's hand at a funeral. Let her water a garden, and build a house, and carry a sketch in a leather jacket for 17 months thinking he was eye on the ground. She should be furious. But standing in the doorway of the house he designed for her, holding a 2-word apology in handwriting she'd know anywhere, all she felt was one thing. One single thing sitting in her chest like something sharp and bright and unbearable. Why? She stepped back inside, closed the door, locked it, walked to the mantel, set the note down next to the sketch, looked at them both, the impossible building, the 2-word apology. 2 pieces of paper from the same hand. One saying thank you. One saying I'm sorry. She didn't cry. She was past crying. She was somewhere beyond crying, in a place where the body is too full of questions for tears to find room. She picked up her phone, opened her contacts, scrolled to his name. She had never deleted it. 17 months, and she had never deleted his number. Not because she was sentimental, but because deleting it felt like agreeing he was gone, and some part of her, some quiet, stubborn, marigold-colored part of her, had apparently refused to agree. She typed a text, 4 words, sent it before she could think. Where are you? She watched the screen. Nothing. 5 seconds. 10. Then 3 dots appeared. He was typing. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The dots pulsed. Once. Twice. Then they disappeared. Nothing. She waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. The screen stayed dark. The house stayed quiet. The car at the corner, she checked through the window, was gone. She sat on the window seat with her phone in her hand, and the note on the mantel, and the garden outside dark and still, and every question she'd ever had about this man alive and burning in her chest. And outside, Chicago held its breath. If you're sitting there with your mouth open right now, yeah, same. I told you this story wasn't finished. Subscribe to this channel immediately. I'm not playing. Part 3 is coming, and you need to be here when it drops. Tell me in the comments, what do you think happened? Where was he? Why did he do it? Does Mirai know? Does Sungji know? Drop your theories, drop your time, drop your city. I want to see all of it. Every single one of you. Part 3 is coming. Don't miss it.